So perfect. So, hi, welcome all. Today I have a very special guest on my show, Miss Barbara With. She is an international peace activist, award winning author. She has written multiple books on metaphysics. I think you have written six books on metaphysics, which
Yes.
includes the Einstein et al., Manifestation, Conflict Resolution, and the New Operating System. That sounds wonderful. Imagining Einstein, Party of 12, Part 2, maybe, Diaries of Psychic Sorority. So I really welcome you on my show, and there is a lot of things we need to discuss with you. As we have discussed about the podcast called child sexual abuse, it's why a very critical topic, and everybody has been talking about it. But most of the times, the people don't talk about it because it sometimes the people become very judgmental about it, or sometimes the people says, okay, this is most critical topic, I don't want to talk about it. So what do you think, what are the common misconceptions about the sexual abuse and its survivors?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions and something I labored under too, because I too am a victim of childhood sexual trauma, is that we can't come out from under it. Is that it's something that's going to somehow mar us for the rest of our lives. And I used to call it damaged goods.
Hmm.
And so there was always this sort of self-defeatist part of it. And I think that's a really big misconception for victims and survivors of it. I think looking in on it, it's while it's so common, right? It's probably, like you said, far more common than people talk about, considering how humanity came out of such a, evolution of kind of brutality, and children were chattel. And I think looking in, though, there isn't like one way that somebody experiences this. There isn't just one way that it plays out in someone's life. One person might be an overachiever, driven to try to make up for whatever isn't happening inside, and somebody might be a complete addict. I suffered for years from addiction. So there isn't just one or two ways that it shows itself.
Yes, absolutely. And how does the child sexual abuse impact a person's mental, emotional, and physical health in the long term?
I think it's a complete capture of those, we call them human dimensions, three human dimensions: intellect, intuition, and emotion. So when you have something so disorienting as early childhood sexual abuse, especially if it's from someone who, like in my case, it was my father. So here was somebody emotionally and intellectually I was supposed to be bonding with, and yet into intuitively was this danger, danger, danger. And so that early effect creates those initial patterns then that we play out until we get some help or figure out that we need to go deeper and heal something. So it really has a profound effect. And when it's at that root level, it can influence everything it does, whether it's your job or your relationships or your children, how you deal with your children or anything. It's so root that it has a very profound effect.
Okay. So sometimes it might sometimes the people are in a state of denial that how they are reacting in a certain way because they are not able to accept that what has happened with them.
Well, even more than denial, it's that because to survive, we had to repress and kind of keep our emotions and our perceptions hidden and down. And we can be putting on smiles on our faces, or we can coping here. But if this is going on in this deeper place, then it's inevitable to have to have that effect.
Yeah. So what are the basically early signs can parents, caregivers, or educators look for identify the possible abuse? Because I believe when the child sexual abuse is happening, the child, if it is from very closed one, the child doesn't know that it is a sexual abuse or it is a sense of affection the person is showing. So, how do you think the parents should train their children, maybe that they should come out of that or recognize that is there something happening?
I think having conversations as early as you can in ways that children might uh, understand incrementally. You don't want to go to a young child and talk about something that could happen, but to to emphasize, to help your children trust their intuition, because my intuition told me as a child that this was not right, but I didn't have, this was my parent, so I
Yeah,
didn't have someone to to have this conversation. But
correct.
kind of on a bigger term, helping children trust their intuition on many different things, which is a good thing anyway,
Yeah,
but it's a way to sort of ease into then. And however, I'm not a parent, so I wouldn't imagine how to have that conversation, but it's tough. You have to teach children that the world is not safe, and you don't want them to be afraid, but you want them to rely on themselves. And so yeah, that's what I would think.
yeah. So even when I was doing the research on the child sexual abuse, actually my research topic was on child sexual abuse. I got to know even when it is like parental abuse, the people are not able to trust. So the because it is the most least thing we expect that okay, this has abuse has been done by a parent, and then once it is done, so the first, I think the intent of a child is to trust the parents. There's this other people are secondary, and once that is broke, I think it is very hard to trust the people. So if I ask you if you're okay with that, I would like to ask you how okay was it for you to trust other people, or when did you open up, or when did you start trusting the people?
Well, that is a good question, because it was really over time. It was a long unfolding.
Yeah,
And because I didn't trust people, I didn't trust myself. And because of that, I made decisions that weren't in my best interest. That's the kind of the cycle of unchecked trauma and abuse running someone's life.
yeah,
But it was really when I fell so far down my own darkness that I was forced to sort of have a reckoning and start to look inward for some answers as to why was my life happening in this way over and over. And as I rebuilt that understanding within myself, then I started to trust myself more. And then I started to be able to trust in other people, and eventually come out to where I came from, sort of sexual addiction and love addiction and all that, to having a pretty darn good marriage with a wonderful man for quite a long time. We didn't make it all the way to the end, but we're very good friends now. So it's really a lifetime journey that we're all on.
yeah, absolutely. So do you think there are any kind of culture or social stigma that plays a very important role or hinder prevention efforts?
Oh gosh, I don't want to get too deep into that rabbit hole, but I think our culture is right now based on a lot of uh sexuality. I think there's a lot of pressure for children to be sexual, and that hurts the whole point of trying to protect the children from those things, when some of that is integrated even into what gets children get exposed to on so many different levels now these days with
Yes.
social media and everything. So that hinders it. I would think that this is really a time for people to hold their community or their family in closer, sort of more old fashioned, where there's a much more looking after, looking over, not just handing somebody a device and letting them run wild, but really bringing the family into having conversations that are difficult. And that, I think, can go a long ways when you have that solidity. And if you can't, if those are the areas of abuse, I think nowadays, as much as there is, I think, more threat to
Yeah.
children than when I was a child, there's also more resources, and there's more awareness, and there's more tools, and there's more people like yourself who are doing something on a daily basis to try to bring this to the light.
Yeah. So, how do you think the survivors can actually navigate the feeling of shame, guilt, and self blame? Because it is there.
It sure is. And
Yes.
it's for me, it permeated so many aspects of my life. It wasn't just, my sexual life or any of love life or anything. And I think it's a process. I think having to have a spiritual context to your life
Mhm.
is really, I think, the basis of that progress. In my spiritual context, I believe that I came here and for a purpose, and that everything that I'm going through is really helping me to be a fuller, deeper, richer, more evolved person and contributing to the world as well. So that helps. But patience, and also in the work I do of conflict revolution, we
Mhm.
teach something as simple. It's called feeling and breathing.
Okay.
And it's based on the idea that your emotion is one thing.
Mhm.
We have shame, we have guilt, and your intellect is another. We have thoughts and descriptions of
Mhm.
shame and guilt. Oh, I'm such an unworthy person. And these are two different things. But what happens is we feel the shame, the emotion of it, and then it flows through and it marries to these thoughts that say, I'm not good enough, or I'm damaged goods. And that creates my reality.
True.
So we try to teach people to pull them apart. So we deal with the emotion of it differently. That's a present moment thing. When shame comes up, I don't need to know why I feel it. I don't need to let that marry to all this thinking process that's going to create that reality. I need to breathe it and feel it and know that it's been abscessed in there. And for me, my abuse started in diapers.
Oh,
So, so whatever has been abscessed in me is a long, beautiful process of sort of revival, and it's
yeah.
painstaking, but we breathe and feel that. And then when you don't have that emotion attached to those thoughts, when you've been really releasing them, and then you can go over and go, okay, well, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm no good. Well, we have to replace this thinking too.
Yeah.
We have to, and in conflict revolution, it's easy. We just flip it. So if I'm doing it wrong, actually, I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
If I'm even having the awareness that I'm aware that I'm thinking something that's hurting me, and
Mhm.
that's what it is. So this becomes this really inner spiritual journey that then manifests, hopefully, it has
Yeah.
for me, a life of thriving and happiness. And it's not easy always, of course. Life is,
Absolutely.
but we're
Ab-
better equipped and more competent and more confident in
Yeah.
how we deal with ourselves and our trust in ourselves. And that's where it all begins anyway.
Yeah, that's very true you said, because even when in my research, uh, some people didn't show the will to overcome it. So the I believe, as per your conversation also, that you were very little at this moment of time, and you were not knowing what is happening with you, but you knew something was wrong and you had a will to work on it. So most of the times the people leave it. Okay, this is my life. I cannot work on it. So how do you think that we can actually build something or make them feel that okay, it's your life, you have to do something on self?
Sometimes I think it's just getting down to that hard fact. This is a fact. This isn't my opinion. This isn't about your value. It's that if you want to succeed at this, you have to apply your will. You have to be willing. You have to make the decision that you are going to co-create with it. And if you're not going to make that decision and you're going to just sit back and suffer and complain, then that's the choice that you make. And until you make a different choice, I can only continue to love you and help you and give you my best advice, but
Mhm. But till
that's
when? But
that's
till
just how it is.
when?
And I remember one time my sister struggled. We all did through this war zone of a household, and she had been whining and whining and whining and whining for such a long time. And I didn't want to get mad at her because I understood, but I just had to say, this is up to you.
Mm.
What are you going to do? And then I kind of stormed off, and she got it. She was in that place where she could go, oh, gosh, that's right. It's not about Barb getting mad at me. It's
Yeah,
about that truth. So yeah. And in a way, I don't mean to sound callous. I hope I don't, because I am been through all of this, but sometimes we just need a helmet and knee pads.
correct.
We just need to get ready because life is going to do that. Put on the helmet. Let's go. Get up.
Yes.
Move on. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But I have seen certain people while talking that now, because they are getting the attention, they are getting listened, they are getting this all sort of sympathy. They keep on whining all of their life. Even they, okay, I suffered this, that's why I'm doing this. I suffered this, that's why I'm doing it. I suffered. I believe that sometimes it is okay, but sometimes you have to get out of the bed. You have to say that, okay, I am ready to, I'm a survivor, I'm not a victim. I think these words might change something as per me, but you are the better judge. So I believe that sometimes the people whine a lot too much because they are getting like some pat on the back. Okay, okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you had this. But sometimes we have to stand for ourselves and we have to come out of that shelter that, okay, no, this is, I don't want to be a victim, I want to be a survivor. What are your thoughts about it? Am I right? Am I wrong?
No, absolutely. But I think, like you said, there's a process in the discovery. So somebody who's just come into sort of looking at their life and finding out that this has been happening, and it's, or also women who are in abusive relationships, there's this realization that I'm in danger, or I need to change. And then you either do that, you take that step and you change, or you don't. And in the process, you have to go from recognizing that this man was a danger to me, or this situation was a danger to me. I did not create the situation. I was only a baby. Or even I was just whatever, if it was sexual abuse from last week, whatever. I did not create this. But then there comes a place where we're going to get ourselves to safety and say, now, how did I create this for myself? And those people who want to stay in the victim mode are not going to go there. And they're going to say, oh, I didn't create this for myself. I was a victim. And they're going to say all those things that prove that they're victims. And then in conflict revolution, though, we go, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. But if I created it, I can uncreate it and I
Yes,
can recreate it.
true.
So I'm going to take this chance. It's like an experiment, self experiment that. And I did that. I was actually sexually assaulted probably about 12 years ago by somebody who was an old friend.
Okay.
And it was at a time where I was razor thin anyway. I was going through some transformation, but I was just raging about this. Why would you do this in your wife and your kids? And, now there's this whole, da, da. And he's a psychopath. And I
Oh,
had to look in the mirror and say to myself, where am I a psychopath? And it's a metaphoric ask, like, what is this behavior that in the outside is really a terrible psychopath, mirroring to whatever is going on inside me that would allow me to put myself in a place of danger, or that would not let myself heal from this, or And so I had to dig to see my own inner workings and what those voices in the intellect were saying. And it's a deep journey, and not a lot of people can do it or want to. But I think if you can get farther than victim
Mm.
and even start to say, you know what, I even if I made bad decisions before, or I was really truly a victim before, I'm going to make better decisions now.
Yeah, that's the very wonderful you said that. Yes, I'm going to make the better decisions now. So, are there any specific tools or activities you would suggest that can young people that they can set the boundaries? Because what happens, sometimes it is like people are going to the office. I'm not saying I'm not specifying as a gender. It can be male or it can be female. And the
Mhm.
boss being at certain position, they try that, okay, I'm giving you promotion, then you have to do this for me. You might need to lay down with me, or have to sleep with me, or whatever. So there are different circuit, or it is like sometimes it is like open. Sometimes they try to assault, they try to comment, or they try to do, so that because they know that okay, the designation is low, she would do or he would do anything for me. So, how do you think that they can set boundaries? Because they cannot keep on changing the office, and it's been happening a lot. It happened with me, to be very true. I changed three offices just because of this reason, because my boss was very, like, always trying to approach me. And my another boss said, okay, he's your client, you have to do whatever is feasible for the business. So I was very astonished. So you're not acknowledging uh my skills, you are what you are doing, what you're trying to do, just because of your business you're asking me, okay, whatever you want to do it. So what sort of this? So I just want to understand that now. Maybe I believe I know how to set the boundaries, but that time when I was like 25, 26, I didn't know how to set the boundaries, how to say no that and still work in that office. So is there any way that we can set boundaries at least especially at that age, because the people do not know how to say no?
I have never been in that kind of situation, especially if you have a line of work that you do, and now you've three times you've
Yeah.
traded it out. The first thing that I would do would be I would do a revolution,
Mm.
and that would be an experiment as to why are you manifesting
Mm.
these similar situations. Yes, we know it's an atmosphere, but we also know people who don't do that.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't excuse any of these people.
Sure. Right.
And if I were in that place, it, I, I think it would be a choice between, uh, not wanting to work in that environment. As you said, you've
Left.
switched
Yeah.
it, stitched it up, and just laying down the law
Yeah.
in whatever way to make yourself heard. uh,
Mm.
and and oh hell no kind of a attitude of this is not what it is, this is not ever what it's going to be, and if that's the case, then get rid of me because I'm not doing it.
Right.
But I don't know if that's an option either. There's such relationships,
Yes.
daily relationships with people that honestly you wouldn't be in the same room with that person
Yeah.
who is suggesting you should do this to keep
Yes.
your job.
Of
So
course.
it's a dilemma.
Yes.
And I think that's why with conflict revolution, we're working both sides of it. We're not ignoring this side. Intuition is going to tell us,
Yes.
what to say at any moment. But as we work on this side of it, and we find that sort of inner psychopath, the
Yeah.
one that says yes when it means no,
Yeah.
and compromises, makes those decisions, and as we heal that and shore that up and make better decisions there, take more self-care, even if it just means listening to intuition, that little tiny self-care. So what's that voice inside you impelling you to do? Then this world changes too.
Yeah.
That's when we start to attract different
Mhm.
people who aren't going to do that to us, because it's really not reflecting something we're doing to ourselves in the long
Right.
run, hopefully.
Yeah. So I actually, because I was very young at that age, I was like 20, 22. So at that age, I did not understand what needs to be done. My answer was, okay, I do not want to sleep. That is very clear. I do not want to sleep with you. That is very clear. So I used to switch my jobs for that. Because so after a certain time, I mean, when I started my own organization, I realized particularly that I should try to say no. No means, that means maybe not in a direct way, because the person is not directly, if the person is not directly asking, indirect way, maybe showing my body gestures or ignorance. Okay, don't, this is my work, or I am busy, I am with someone or something like that, so that the healthy relation should be maintained. And like, I believe that that could have worked, but that time I was literally stuck. Okay, what is happening to me?
Yes, yes. I think that's it.
Yeah. So maybe, okay, but everything is experience, I believe. So I experience something and then things happen. So I have become more strict that, okay, now I need to show that, okay, you have to be at that level in order if you want to talk to me. So
Exactly.
that is how we all learn, I believe, with experiences.
Yes. And a lot of them are just so hard, but
Yes,
good in the long run. Gives us wisdom.
correct. So, how do you think the survivors of sexual abuse who have healed using their experience to empower and can educate others?
How can those who have been healed,
Can educate others.
I think everybody has their own decision to make with that. I'm somebody who is absolutely not afraid to share my history. My life's an open book.
Yeah,
Um, I think people who aren't necessarily externally oriented like that can have an effect in their community, their family, their inner circles of kind of building trust with others who may have been through that. So it's kind of more of a quieter kind of conversation that those people like us who are familiar can see somebody. Like I have a friend at home that I met recently, and I could clearly see she had been somewhere. She was so dissociative and really brilliant, but didn't have a sense of self. And I just was able to have a friendship with her and understanding kind of what the system was. And so I wasn't nearly as triggered as maybe somebody who was just trying to like be her friend and why is she acting so weird or what have you. So to really use our empathy and our intuition to have one-to-one conversations when sometimes they're difficult to have.
right. Sometimes the people are also not opening up. They feel, okay, why should I tell someone what has happened to me? So it takes a lot of courage to open up, first of all, and a lot
Well,
of trust that the other person would not be judging me, because sometimes the bounce back is why you were there, why you did
right.
there,
What did you do?
what did you do? Yeah.
And I had a friend too who came to me and she was concerned that her new husband was hurting her son.
Okay.
And she called me. She was very reluctant to do that. And I really encouraged her to, oh, just really trust your body on this, trust your intuition, trust what he's telling you, your son. And she didn't. And later on, it all came out, and it was a terrible, terrible, lots of lawsuits and accusations, and she felt terrible about it. So really trust yourselves.
Yes, that's the one thing. And can you share any kind of success story where prevention or healing efforts have made a significant impact with your sessions? Anything?
I think that I haven't actually had someone bring this topic as a conflict
Okay.
because when I do coaching with people, they're generally, I don't think I've ever had somebody come and
Mm-hmm.
want to do this, uh, and certainly not in a group setting.
Okay.
I think though with the information for myself
Mhm.
is that it's this it's just that advice is that when we do that inner work and when we find how to love ourselves, That is the most important part of the work that we do. And that brings miracles. That really
Yeah.
brings miracles and healing.
So I think love yourself as much as you can, and the rest will follow. So
Yes.
what is the last message that you would like to give to our audience?
I would say if there was one thing that you could walk away from this with, it would be understanding the importance of feeling and breathing. Because at any time in the day, if we are overwhelmed or if it's shame or anger, anxiety, we can always stop, sit down, take a breath, and breathe for 30 seconds consciously. Just release the whatever the emotion is, let it flow, and it'll leave us with a clear mind and a lighter emotional burden as well. And
Thank you so
persevere.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving us a lot of insights, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope this reaches to million of people and they should be able to understand themselves and can come out of that. If they are have any problem, they realize that what is something happening, or if it is happening, they can come out of it as soon as possible. But let's bless that this should not be happening to anyone, but still it's a world. Different sort of people are surrounded. I hope everybody can come out of this as soon as possible. Love yourself, enjoy, and be a survivor, not a victim.